Latchkey Kids and Drive-In Mutants. Welcome back. This is our second part of our three-part series. And here with me today is Crystal Connor, and I'm going to interview her. It's my first interview for my channel, so be nice to me and be nice to her. Welcome to the channel, Crystal. How have you been?
I've been really good. I'm so excited about this collaboration. I've been thinking about it like all week, and I'm just super excited to be here to be under the gun, do the baptism by fire, and be introduced to all your fans. I love your channel, by the way. I love your channel. So I'm just
Thank you so much.
super nervous and excited that I'm here with you, the Lady Shasha from
The feeling is mutual.
Thank you.
My first question actually is about your channel, because when I listen to your channel, you sound extremely knowledgeable. So my first question is, have you ever studied film?
I haven't. I haven't. What I think goes on in my reviews is just that I kind of like all the little things matter. Like if I'm not yanked out of the storyline, it's easier to focus on everything that makes it like compelling or scary or stressful or full of dread. But it's the little things. I'm a Virgo. I'm an August Virgo, so my attention to detail is acute, almost like pathological, to the point where I notice everything. And so I think that's why I think I seem like I'm like knowledgeable. It's just because in my Virgo mind, I'm taking everything apart and putting it back together. And so I think that's what you're seeing is just my Virgo. And not only am I a Virgo, I'm a triple Virgo. My sun's in Virgo, my rising is in Virgo, and my Mercury is in Virgo. So
oh wow.
I know.
I only know my sun and my rising. My sun is in Virgo and my rising is in Sagittarius.
My sun, my moon is in Capricorn, and my Libra is in Venus. A hot mess. Like I just had my natal chart read a couple of months ago, so I was just like, this makes a lot of sense that I'm a triple Virgo. Like the girl who was doing it when she did everything that she did, she's like, oh, you're a Virgo, a triple Virgo. And I was like, is that bad? Like, why would you say it like that?
That intonation was like she said that you were diagnosed with a terminal disease. Like what's
I know. And in my Virgo mind, I was like, what does this mean? Like, but it does explain a lot of things. And so I think that's where people I guess like trust what I'm saying, is just because like I'm really like, if you can see the inside of my head, it's just all these analytics and stuff that I can't even describe. Only another Virgos like yourself would know.
So my second question, I have no segue, because remember the whole I have no segue. This is why I am not Oprah. Another lifetime I could have been Oprah, but I have no segue. So my second question for you is, what are your favorite 3 horror subgenres?
Ooh, okay. So my number one favorite horror subgenre is religious horror. Growing up in a Christian household and still believing the things of I read in the scriptures and being able to expand my knowledge on the holy text, not just through the big 3, but the Apocrypha books and the missing books and just like getting a bigger expanding my own understanding what those texts means. Religious horror is my favorite one because it's the most visceral. For me, it's the most real. And I think I said this to someone else, but like being, I'm not a Christian because I'm not living by the text, but I am God-fearing. And the biggest thing that scares me the most is the idea that God would turn his back on me. Like I would just be in an abyss, and that's probably, worse than being in hell. So religious horror has always affected me way more than any other type of horror. And so that's my number one. My second favorite type of horror is psychological. Like I don't always need like the blood and the gore and the chase and the monsters. A lot of films that are being produced by A24 have that type of suspended stress and dread. And so like The Lodge and Midsummer's and Hereditary, those types of movies really like shake me to the core because it's almost nostalgic too. Like, you know, it reminds me of watching like the Hitchcock films, but like ratcheted up. So it's just that is, and I like the feeling. This is so sadistic, but I like that feeling of that prolonged, you know, stress and impending doom, and it gets worse and worse and worse as it goes on. You know, it kind of like has those types of movies and books like grabs us and like and surrounds us and just like puts the pressure on us until it's over, and then we're like sitting there blinking like, what in the heck just happened? So that would be number two. And then my and I don't know if I can call this a sub genre, but like I love, okay, that's cheating, hold on, and I don't know what to call it. Like a lot of horror films out of Korea, even though they're horrible, there's also a huge emotional element. So like I have not,
have a drama in it. Yes.
I have not seen a horror movie out of Korea that did not break my heart. Where you have, you know, these strong men who are just like with I Saw the Devil, where he's just like wailing and wailing, like you're like, oh my God, like, can I hug you? This is not what I signed up for.
The ending of Train to Busan, I cried.
You know what got me with Train
I came here to see zombies and you made me cry.
Right. What got me with Train of Busan is when they were in the tunnel and the soldiers couldn't see them and they started singing their fucking national anthem. I was like, it was over. It was, and then like the you know, because they really make you love the characters. Have you seen Sweet Home, the series on Netflix?
I've seen the first 5 episodes. I haven't finished it.
Man, get some
that made
tissue.
me.
Get
there was a character that they made me. I saw him one way. I'm trying to speak in a way that won't spoil it for people who haven't seen Sweet Home, but there was a character that I took him to be a villain.
I know what you're talking about.
The backstory, and then you find out. My apologies.
No worries. I know which character you're talking about. So, and that's like, and I don't know if that's like a subgenre or a preference, because I haven't really. Those are the only ones that affect me in that way. Like, you know what I mean? Like, does that make sense? It's just that, like, it's like
they're emotional dramas, but they also are horror movies.
Yep. Yeah, that's exactly it. It's like the drama and the backstories and who you think are villains or not, and like
the closest thing we have to that in America I can think of is like the ending of The Mist.
Oh my! You know what? That they were right there, there, and yeah, I think. And speaking of The Mist, I think that's a really good example of a short, because it was a short story that was brought into a full feature film. There's like a lot of dangers, and we've seen that done not so well. So I was like very happy that The Mist turned out the way that it did.
Before I move on to my next question, I wanted to have a follow-up on what you call religious horror. When you say religious horror, do you mean like movies about like possessions or?
Yeah, it's like, so I would say, and I think also it would be blending into the occultism, because that is a form of religion. So like, for example, for those type of movies, it would be like The Exorcist, High Wacket, Veronica, Jugface. Have you seen Jugface?
Yeah, I saw Jugface.
So like movies like that have a strong spiritual, Hereditary, even especially Midsummer's, because those movies are surrounded around spirituality and religion, and you know, because I'm still exploring my own spirituality, and I'm expanding on my awareness and what I'm choosing to believe in. Those types of movies are the ones that scare me the most, that stick with me, like, you know, like how your grandmother used to be like, this well, you need something to stick to your ribs. Those
Mhm.
movies stick to my ribs because I think about them all the time, you know what I mean? And
Mhm.
so that would kind of be like, you know, not just Christian horror, but like did you see the movie called The Vigil?
No, I haven't seen that one yet.
I reviewed it on my channel, and it is about a right in the Jewish community. When someone dies, they usually get a rabbi to sit with the body for 24 hours to keep the spirit away so that the body can transfer safely. I had no idea about this right until I saw that movie. And
Mm.
and it is, I'm not even gonna say anything, go check it out. Check out the review.
Those movies affect me the most. Like I can blood and gore, I enjoy watching it, but
Shrug it
it
off.
doesn't, yeah, I can just shrug it off and go to sleep. But anything that has to do with spiritual possession and phantoms, ghosts, demons, those type of things, it's very hard for me to sleep. For the movies that do it effectively, it's very hard for me to sleep
Right, because I
because
don't think Paranormal Activity do it effectively. Like, so those movies, like those are like, and how can I say this without offending anybody? Those are like teenage horror movies, right? Because it's like
Mhm.
jump scares and the ending is predictable, and you kind of like, for us who have been like watching horror for as long as we have, we kind of know where those are going, and so they're not too terribly scary, and because of that, they don't really affect me that much.
Mhm. Um, Going off of that, there was something I forgot my follow-up question. I have a follow-up question. It was one that came to mind as you were speaking. It wasn't one of my original questions, but I'll just divert back to the original questions then.
If you
Um,
think of it just like, oh yeah, and then I'll answer.
okay. Who is your favorite Black horror actress? I wanted to ask that because this is both Black History Month and Women's History Month. So, or do you have a favorite Black horror actress?
Um, I always get super excited when I see one. I think the most um heroic, there's two, because at first the one that comes to mind that was like I was rooting for her 110% is the woman who was in the first 28 days later.
Oh yeah, I remember her. Yes.
And so the person I feel who picks up the reins to be my other favorite Black horror actress is the star of Sweetheart.
Oh, I've seen the trailer for that. It's on my Netflix queue.
And I also reviewed that movie. So like why I liked why it just like made my heart sing these two types of female characters is because, or even like in the sci-fi, but it's kind of sci-fi and horror, is Alien versus Predator, um the 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 expedition lead. um they're smart, they know how to survive, they know how to command and
Mhm.
control a group of people, to take charge and to get things done. There's also the humanity of them, right? They're not these strong, angry Black women.
Mhm.
They're still very vulnerable. In some of in you know all of their wholeness, right? They're
Mhm.
strong and they're feminine and they're um, kick-ass, take no names, but they're also vulnerable. They fall in love. They make super uh, tough choices to survive. Like in the first 28 days later, for those of you guys who haven't seen it, there's a spoiler. But when the girls are captured by the soldiers, and she is, because she's a chemist, she's giving the younger girl pills to get through the horror of what they're about to encounter. Like
Mhm.
that is a protective decision, even though it was a horrible one, because she knew what was coming, right? She knew what was about to happen. And that girl was so young. She was like, this will get you through it,
Mhm.
you know? And so, yeah, those would be like my heroines. Like if I'm going to be picking, that's such a good question. Picking a favorite Black horror actress. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite horror author?
Yes, besides myself. I know that's hella vain,
Mhm.
but I'm not going to apologize for it. I'm going to say my favorite horror author is Stephen King. And the reason is because even though I am an author myself, I have 13 published books, I'm working on two more. I was a late bloomer when it came to reading, and it was something my mom was really concerned about. especially since I come from a house of avid readers, right? And so here I am in the 6th grade, still not reading anything. And in the 7th grade, I met my best friend, Noelle Perry. She lived right across the street from me. She was this beautiful Native American shy girl who I just like overwhelmed. I was like, that's my new best friend, right? Go best friend, that's my best friend. And so like a week into our
I just pictured the video. When you said that, the video popped into my head. That's my best friend.
that's my best friend. And so and she was like really shy until she opened up to you. And so she was like, have you ever read, what was it? Oh my God, it was the very first book that I read, Pet Cemetery. She's because like when we were going to school, and when she was like, I would always be talking in her ear, and she was always like with that book in her hand. And so like when she finished it, she's like, you should check it out too. And so I started reading it, and my mom was like, oh, thank you, God. You know, and then it got to the point where, again, because the characters are so relatable, actually, I take that back. My mom didn't know I was reading Stephen King until Gage died, because I flew out of my room. I like pile driving to my mom like I was a linebacker, crying, like ugly crying, with snot coming down. And I was like, Gage died. Oh my God, Gage died. And she was like, what's going on? Like, I scared the heck out of her. And where we were living at the time, we were living in the high desert in a small town called Victorville, California. And the highway there, 395, is pretty bad because it's faster than freeway speeds. And there's like semis, and like, you know, the accidents on that highway are pretty bad. So my mom thought something had happened on the highway, and we weren't that far from it. And so my sister was like, she's reading Stephen King. And my mom was like, all this from a book? Oh, a book? Okay, well, let's talk you down so that you can finish it. And so then the next book after that I read was The Stand. And then I was hooked after that. And for the longest time, like, so that's from the 7th grade to the 10th grade, I had a 10th grade English professor who hated Stephen King. And he's like, there are way other better horror books out there than this. Like, this is trash. And of course, I was like offended.
I can totally relate.
All right.
The first Stephen King book I read was Pet Cemetery in the 6th grade. And in high school, I don't remember what grade it was. It might have been 10th or 11th grade. Same thing. English teacher said, Stephen King's the worst thing for you to read because there's so many grammatical errors, which there are. Stephen King loves to put commas where there shouldn't be and run on sentences. So yeah, there are a lot of grammatical errors, but he's still the best to read. So
yeah, and so he challenged me because he ended up being my English professor for the 11th and 12th grade too. He's like, I'm going to give you other books to read, and if you read these at the end of the year, you can do a or like the thesis on any book that you want. And I'm like, it's not even going to be good. But then he handed me Edgar Allan Poe, and then after that, I was introduced to Dinar Kuntz, and then I don't know how I ended up reading Robin Cook. Because I was such a a lot of people don't know this about me, but I'm super self-conscious about reading out loud. And so when I get invited to read for my own works, or if, you know, I get super nervous because I'm not a very good reader out loud. And Robin Cook, his writing, like Stephen King and Dinar Kuntz, and even Edgar Allan Poe, they're here as far as getting you to understand the subject matter, right? Robin Cook is here because he's a doctor. And so that was really challenging reading, because I would have to read his work with a dictionary right next to me, because there was words I had never seen before, and I had to look them up to understand them. But you know, that's how I was introduced to other writers. And on my when the reviews came back for my first book, The Darkness, when people were saying this feels like Stephen King, I was like super like over the moon to be one, compared to my favorite author. But later in my career, it started to make sense, because I've never taken any type of writing classes, and because he was such a prevalent he was so prevalent in my literary life when I was younger. I don't not necessarily emulate his writing style, but like, you know, if there was a problem that I was having troubles with The Darkness and trying to figure out how to structure a scene, I would go read a Stephen King book to see how he did it. So unbeknown to him, he's the one who taught me how to write. Him, Stephen King, him, Dinar Kuntz. I say our peeves because I wasn't a fan of the books that he wrote when he took out his middle name. I don't know why they just changed. And
Mhm.
and Robin Cook, those guys, because that's the way I like to be entertained. And I didn't take a writing class. That's kind of how I write. And so Stephen King is, he's my literary dad, if I'm allowed to have one. And so he is my favorite author because he was the one that introduced me to the literary world of horror.
You mentioned living in California. Have you always lived on the West Coast?
I have. I'm in Seattle now. I was born here in the state on a military installation, Fort Lewis, Washington. And then we left, being a military family, we left when I was 9, and we ended up in California for Georgia Air Force Base. And that's where I finished my not elementary school, but my, up to the 12th grade. And then I joined the military, and then I traveled all over the world. And I was living in California after I got out of the military for about a year and a half. And then I just came back to Seattle because there's no place like home. I have been on the East Coast. I've been to New York 3 times. I really like it, but every time I go back there, it's in the winter time. So I'm like really trying to do everything I can to get back home. I've been to Florida. I like Florida, except for I'm in tobophobic. Do you know what that means?
No, not off the top of my head.
I have an acute fear of bugs, and tropical
Oh.
places have really, larger bugs
Mhm.
that I just can't deal with. Like
Mhm.
it's bad. I'll be on a stretcher with oxygen. And I've been to Baltimore, I've been to Washington D.C., but I didn't live in those places. I just visited. I've always lived and that's a long way to answer your question. Yes, I've always lived on the West Coast.
No, I actually, for some reason, I just got the sense, I don't know where, probably because when I had gone back to grad school, a lot of the people in classes with me were from the military. And there was something about you that made me wonder if you were military. And I don't know what it was, but it must have been something that reminded me of the other people that I've been around that were either raised in the military or were in the military.
I'm both. I'm a military brat with the emphasis word on being brat. And I'm not joking. Like me and my siblings, my mom, and I'm going to age myself, but that's okay. Back in the day, cereal boxes had toys in them. And so to alleviate the fighting at the breakfast table, me and my sister and brother had our own box of cereal, even though it was the same cereal. That's unheard of. And then when my niece was 7, 6, maybe even younger than that, we all went home. We all ended up at my mom's house, and we went to war over the cereal because there was only one box. And my niece was looking at us like, what the heck is going on here? And my mom's like, you guys need to go home. Like, I don't care. I haven't seen you guys in a year, but you need to go home. You're getting on my nerves over the cereal. And so, yeah, I didn't realize what sharing was just because, I'm a brat with a capital B. Me and my siblings all are. So
Hey, that's for me, I feel like it's a good thing for a woman to be spoiled, because then more than likely she's not going to allow people to mistreat her because she's used to being treated a certain way.
I
So I
like
kind
it.
of feel like it's a good thing for people to spoil the daughters, at least just a little bit, just so that they feel special, you know?
I'm high maintenance because I'm the one doing all the work, right? And the thing that like I guess flip side of that is because I'm used to a certain way that I was primed from a very young age. I have long blocks of being single because I just can't settle for not just anyone will do really. Um, you need to meet me at my level. So
That's a good
not,
thing.
not that's what this was about, but
No, but
yeah,
I think that's a good thing, because it's better. A lot of people are fear being single, but it's better to be single than to be with someone that makes you unhappy.
absolutely.
Just to
And
say
then
that you're
like a
with
lot
someone.
of my traveling, I do solo travel, and everyone's like, oh my God, you went to Siberia by yourself? I sure did. It's just something very liberating about being. I went to the Bahamas to research monsters, right? And I went by myself.
Wow.
One of the things and I also did the same thing in Puerto Rico in November of what year is this? Okay, in 2019 or
Mhm.
was it 18? I went to Puerto Rico and the Bahamas because I did some research on monsters. And one of the things that I found out in Puerto Rico was the Chupacabra is not from Mexico. It originated in Puerto Rico. That's where that monster comes from. And then there's another myth about a family or a community of vampires that they went undetected for so long because their killings were attributed to the Chupacabra. So everyone is like looking at this monster that was killing a whole bunch of people, but the vampires used that monster as cover. So it's just really interesting. You know, and I was, you know, solo traveling with that as well. So
I remember hearing about the Chupacabra just being on the East Coast. There's a lot of people from Puerto Rico, you know, that live on the East Coast. So I remember hearing about that. And also one of my aunts is from Puerto Rico. But that actually leads to my next question. I was going to ask you how, because I know that you're very well traveled. So I was going to ask you how many countries you've traveled to and what are some of your favorites places?
I'm going to have to list them all. Okay, so all of the territories are American, obviously. So the Bahamas, Hong Kong, Malaysia, the Philippines, India, Japan, Saudi Arabia, United Emirates, Morocco, Kenya, Somalia. I think that might be it.
That's still amazing.
I think
that's amazing. There's people that have never been outside the United States. So you've hit several continents.
I think one of the things that I liked most about traveling is learning about other people's monsters and nightmares and mythology. And because I was traveling and learning about different people's monsters and folklore and mythology, I think that it has influenced my writing because people who read what I write say that it has like a global, you know, jet setting feel. And it's from my life experiences that pour into the work, which is probably why I'm so in love with international films. We have amazing filmmakers here in the United States, but there's just something different about watching a film from like Brazil or Venezuela, you know, Russia. It's just something different about it that I truly enjoy. It's a different type of filmmaking. There's so much culture involved in it, and their relationship, especially with horror movies that are coming out of South America. Those movies are really connected to the nature and the environment that's around them. Like it's completely different than how we film movies here.
A different sensibility, different perspective.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not sure whether you answered this one already, but I'm going to ask it. I mean, because we had a little bit of discussion about this in the part 1 of this series, but I'm going to ask again just in case. What's your favorite era of horror movies?
Oh my God, I'm gonna say my favorite era. Oh wow. I'm gonna say from the late 1960s to the early 80s. Does that work?
I feel like there's different eras within that era.
Well,
like
the reason I'm choosing that block is because of the way the films were shot. Like, you know, and you can kind of see like so in the late 70s is when people were exploring, I think, with extreme horror, like with a movie called The Day of the Woman, and then the first Mother's Day. You know, those were really brutal movies, but the brutality was over the top that it made it a bit comical. And so then they start to like slow that down. They bring that down as we move into the 70s. They bring that over the top down, and it's substituted with like the suggestion of dread, more backstories of the characters, you know, bigger kill scenes, and just like a more developed story. And then as we move into the early 80s, all of that from, you know, they build upon that, and then they're giving us sweeping views of just the cinematography and the color and the sound, and you know, it just I think the mid 80s for horror movies is like was our first renaissance, because you can see those directors and those writers building on everything that had come before them, as far as the color palette, the way sound makes you feel, the way how to shoot with shadows and in the dark, and different points of views from the camera, that just brought a whole new level, a whole new experience to watching horror movies. And then something happened in, like, once we moved into the 90s, it gets kind of like, I don't know, it's just a little bit different. And then, like, the movies now, it's really hard to impress me with new movies, like, you know, that have been released in the last 10 years, but there are some that have, and those you can tell are the directors and the writers and even the actors who have been, like, building from, you know, that late 1960s to, you know, the early 80s. So yeah, I think that those are the funnest movies for me so far.
What would be your biggest pet peeve to see in a horror movie? Like,
Okay, so my pet peeve, go ahead, what did you just
say? Something that just irritates you when you see it in a horror movie.
So for me, I am not a gore hound. Like, I don't like gratuitous scenes of nudity or, like, gore unless it's necessary. And so when in a scene, like, let's say, for example, you know, she breaks her nail and there's, like, blood squirting out from her thumb, like, why are we doing this? This is not necessary. Or you know, we have this girl who's getting dressed in her room and she turns around and we get a full frontal. Like, why? Like, that's not, how is this to the story? And so it irritates me a little bit, just because it's just, in my own opinion, it takes away from the story. We don't need smoke and mirrors to be entertained. Just tell a really good story. So those are my pet peeves. I have one more. I kind of don't like it when they show the monster, especially if the special effects team is not working with the majority of the budget. Like, I think, like, for example, Signs, that movie was excellent until they showed the monster. Like, they didn't have to do that. They could have showed the shadow or
the
their own, like, yeah, imagination, but sometimes showing the monster ruins the whole movie.
Mm-hmm. Or showing too much of it, because I've seen in more recent movies, like in the 2010s, I think what happens is that people become so proud of their special effects makeup that they light it too brightly.
Right.
And then you're taking away from the creature or the scariness when you put this big bright light in its face. It's not scary. A good example is, I don't know if you remember the cover of the VHS or DVD for Castle Freak.
Did you know they remade that movie?
Yes, and I did a review. I have to edit the review.
Oh my God.
There was a lot to say.
You guys kidding? I'm not going on.
One of the best things about the original Castle Freak was the character design and also how they lit him. And on the cover, half of his face is in shadow. Yes. And that makes it more impactful. If they, in the new version,
he's all right.
They're so proud of their special effects. It's all well lit, and that takes away from the creature.
It really does.
It's not a beauty shoot. It's a creature.
You know who does a really good job with their creatures is a movie. Was it 2019? Oh my God, why can't I think of it? Where the monsters came into the town and everyone at the end was at the church. And they show all the monsters climbing around the church. Was it Into the Dark? No. Oh my God, I'm gonna have to, like, look it up, and I can't right now because my lighting is my phone. But, like, and I'll come back later and write in the comments that movie. Those monsters were really, really, really. It's a bromance movie. Like, you know, the all of the main characters are men. It's a cop who his son. No. What happened? They got a divorce. Okay, I'll just write in the comments later because I can't think of it right now. But that's a really good. I'm sorry, you guys. That's a really good display of the monsters. Is that the monsters in that movie? And I just can't. Is it Into the Dark or Out of the Dark or? He's the main character. Do you remember watching Legion?
Yes.
He's the character that played Gabriel.
Oh, okay.
You know, that big guy.
I know the actor, but I haven't seen the movie that you're. If leave it for trivia.
Okay,
Some
okay.
comments. You know what movie Crystal's talking about? Put it in the comments.
Thanks, guys. God, I'm like drawing
My
a
audience is good for that. My audience, I could say it was a movie with a guy, and he had a shoe, and they'll be like, "It was such and such movie in 1974." It was like, how did you figure that out?
I have to apologize because I'm super excited and nervous. So like I'm not thinking straight. I can see the cover and everything. I just can't think of the movie. So
I have a question about your being an author, which has always really, really impressed me. Was there an event that inspired you to start to write your very first book?
yes, and it's not what you think. So I've always told really scary, creepy stories, right? I one of the questions that was asked for my mom when I was doing my coming out party, like so when my book launched, there was a huge 2-hour event where like they were interviewing people from my childhood and people who helped me through getting into my career. And one of the questions that they asked my mom was, when did you know that she was going to be a good storyteller? And my mom was like, ever since she learned how to lie. And that was like kind of embarrassing because she was like, she's the firstborn. And so she would have all these cast of characters of why the cookie got ate. And so like, but like, I never grew up thinking that I was going to become an author. What happened was in 2008, 9, I was working in Seattle at a shipyard, a small shipyard. And some of the guys knew that I wrote and they were like, you should go and talk to the welding instructor. He writes too. And I was like, yeah, okay. I never did. But what happened is he came up to me and he's like, hey, he introduced himself, big giant, 6'3", the type of guy you would think would be working in a shipyard, just a big presence, mountain of a man. And he's like, they told me you wrote, like, I would like to take a look at some of your writing because I write too. And I was like, okay, I will bring you a short story, called The Darkness. He's like, it's fine. And so I gave it to him and he read it on the ferry going home. And then his wife read it. And the next day when he came back, he was angry with me. He was looming over me, demanding why I was here. And he's like, what the F are you doing here? And I'm thinking, it's my shift. Like, what in the world? And so I was automatically put into defense mode because it's a guy who was like 2 feet taller than me, screaming down, just angry. And he said to me, you need to quit this job and take your writing seriously. And he's like, you're a lazy writer. This is not a short story. And then he flung it at me, right? And I was pissed off. Who the hell are you to talk to me like that? Like, oh, hell no. But as the day went on and I started to calm down, this was the first person outside of my circle of support, which is my friends and my family, that told me I wrote well, even though that's not what he said, right? He said that I needed to quit my job and take my writing seriously. He didn't say I was a bad writer. He said I was a lazy writer because he felt that The Darkness was not a short story. And so that's what made me think that I could have a shot at becoming like an author. And so I a couple of days I thought about it, and then I found an editor on Craigslist, and she was she was a copy editor, but she wanted to do some more creative stuff. And so we linked up, and she was, reviewing my work. And there's a scene in The Darkness, again, with, because the religious horror is what scares me so. There was a scene in there that she couldn't get past because she was a devout Catholic, and there's a priest that's killed in that story. And so she called me up one day and she's like, hey, I'm not going to be able to finish editing the story because I can't get past that scene. Like, I'm really super upset about it, but I want you to meet another editor. I'm not going to just like not do it. She's already read what I had so far, and she wants to meet you. Why don't we come and go and meet her? And I'm like, okay. And so I thought it was going to be, just another meeting, like in a coffee shop with like 2 editors. So I had on jeans, a t-shirt, flip-flops, and 2 pieces of like hubba bubba gum in my mouth because I went really big bubbles. And what it ended up being was a business meeting, because who she introduced me to was the editor-in-chief of I don't know if they're still in business anymore because it was just a small press.
Mhm.
It was the editor-in-chief, her husband, and then the CEO of the company. And they read it and they're like, and then imagine like this old white stout woman with like the tight, you know, gray bun in her hair with the pearls and like the pursed lips with the red lipstick. She asked me, she was like, do you know how this story ends? And I was like, not only do I know how it ends, I've already started writing the second book of the series. And she's like, we believe we'll make our money back from you. And then she like had like this paper on the desk and she turns it around and slide it over and she's like, we'd like to sign you. And so just like that is how I ended up becoming a writer. And I was so surprised. Like I stumbled out of there and I called my mom and I was like, I just signed a book deal. My mom's like, yeah, we knew that would happen eventually. Like nobody was surprised except for me. Like you know how you like get some good news and you expect your friends like that's my best friend, girl best friend. They're like, oh yeah, it's about time. I was like, what the hell? Like, and so that's how that happened. That's how, you know, I just it took someone outside of my circle of comfort and support to be like, what the F are
To
you?
give you a little shove.
Yeah, he didn't shove me. He kicked me out of the nest. Like, like it was like a kick to the chest. And I was like, oh, you know, so yeah, and yeah, so that's how that happened. I really wasn't taking my writing seriously. I was just writing and telling, you know, scary stories from as entertainment. It was fun. And so now it's my job and it's still fun. So I'm golden.
Very good. I have a lot of it's funny how my channel skews. My audience is either around 40 and up and they remember, you know, watch the nostalgia stuff, or they're around 14 to 20. For those viewers that are, well, actually this will go well for everyone when I think about it. Initially, when I first phrased the question, I was going to ask for my younger viewers who are interested in writing, what advice would you give? But then just now my mind thought, well, there's no better time than now. So even if you are older, that shouldn't prevent you from doing something new. So for anyone, what would your advice be if you have thought about writing and just can't get yourself to start? What would you say to people?
So this is interesting. This is how I think of it in my mind, right? So because a lot of people who start and don't finish is because they're overthinking the writing process, right? So as a writer, imagine yourself as a diamond miner, right? Your job is to find the diamond. And when you find it, it's going to be rough, right? That's all you have to do is write the story. We're not going to get anywhere until it's done. And then you find an editor who is the jeweler who will cut and polish and present this stone so that it's shiny and sparkly and ready to be sold to the public. So don't self-edit, don't overthink it. Our job as writers is to tell the story. God made editors to edit our stories, right? Our job is to tell the story. So I would say don't get so hung up on the technicalities. Don't overthink it and read a lot of books about how to write. Just breathe, fall into yourself, and then just write. And if you have a day where you're not writing anything, you know, don't beat yourself up. Get back to it when you're ready to. I don't think you can force it. I did see like I watched like I guess it was a commercial for a master class, and the author said, and this is true, what will get you through the days of writing when you don't want to write is not inspiration, but it's your discipline. But that's down the line, right? Just my advice to you, my advice to anyone who's writing and might be struggling is don't stay in your lane as a writer. Our job as writers is to tell the story, just to tell the story. And so don't think about marketing, don't think about book covers until your first draft is done. So that's the only thing that you need to be thinking about is telling your story. Another and super important advice I would give is that not everybody's advice is going to be beneficial to you. And not everyone and not everyone is going to like what you have to write. And so you need to like understand that and let that fall off your shoulders, right? Writing is a form of art, and not everybody understands all the arts that there are, right? So write your story, be true to your story, and your story will be true to you. There is an audience for your writing. You just have to write it. And then when people are giving you advice, just make sure, like, just think about it. But if it's not something that you would want to do, like if someone says to you, for example, like what was said to me, that horror writers wouldn't understand the two Black women characters that I created for the Spectrum trilogy. Okay, that's not advice that's beneficial to me. So I didn't take it. And so here I am now, an award-winning author. One of the awards I won was for best multicultural genre, is because that advice wasn't beneficial to me, so I just didn't take it.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree with it too. Agree with you not taking that advice. I don't want to take that out of context. I want you to toot your own horn. This is my bonus question. Where can my viewers find your literature to read?
Amazon, anywhere that you can order a book, and your local library. I do have some books or stories that are free on Studio Pod. The Monster is free there. And then at the Wicked Library, last season, I have a story there that's called The Heirloom. And then I am in the process of editing a story that will be featured in next season's called The Traveler. So yeah, anywhere fine books are sold, but mostly Amazon. And then
what I'll do is in the description box, I'll put a link to some of your books on Amazon, so it'll be even easier for people to find you.
Yep. And then I also have a different link that I'll give you for ebooks that it's a different funnel, and so it comes directly to me, and I get 90% of the royalties.
Oh, yeah, that's even better. That's even better.
But like some people don't like the 70% of my sales are digital, and I don't even have a digital reader because I like the way books feel. I like opening, like I just bought this. This is the newest book that I purchased off Etsy. It's The Prophecy of Nostradamus. This is an old book, so it has all kinds of different smells in it. Whoever had this book before me lived by the sea, because I can smell salt. So wow. Yeah.
This will be a good time to segue into your top. I had asked you about your favorite era for movies, but I'm gonna narrow it down to the 70s and ask you your top 10 favorite movies from the 70s.
So there are some that are not on there because they were given, right? And that would be like Halloween, the Friday 13th, and Jaws, right? Those are on everybody's list. So even though they're not on my list, I love them anyway. So let me, like, that's my little disclaimer. And so should I go from 1 to 10 or 10 to 1?
Actually, before you do that, I'm sorry, I just thought of a really great question. It's not on my list and it's an extra bonus question, but because we were just now talking about books, I just thought of it and I should have put this as one of your questions. What's your favorite book to movie adaptation?
Oh, I was gonna ask you that too. Oh my God. Okay, because like for me, if I read the book and then see the movie, I won't like it. But if I see the movie first and then read the book, then I'll be okay. And so with that being said, I think because I watched them backwards, I think the best movie to book adaptation, even though that's not the question you asked, because it's how I watch those movies, would be Cujo. Cujo, that movie was terrifying. The book destroyed me. And if I had read that book first, like I read Carrie first, right? And I didn't like the movie, even though the original, the 1970s Carrie is a good movie. It doesn't compare to the book, it never does. And so to keep my levels of frustration down, I always watch the movie first. And if I like the movie, then I watch the book. And so I'm going to say Cujo, but I'm also I just contradicted myself because I read The Mist, which is a short story from Stephen King. And then I watched the movie, and they knocked that out of the park. I was so blown away because it follows the book perfectly. Like, for those of you guys who haven't read the book or haven't seen the movie, the grocery store scene was spot on. Spot on. I was just like, that's exactly what happened and then they went over the top, like the spider scene. I watched that like this. I was like, I didn't even see it. Like, I was just like, nope. And it was just because my fear of bugs is so acute, to see them. You don't really see them. Again, this is what we're talking about in your interview, and just the beginning of our interview. Mm-hmm. They're not like with like the mag light on them. They're moving in the shadows. And
yes,
the sound, like I have like surround sound, so you can hear the scurry, mm-hmm. like, oh, all of that like freaked me out. So that's my answer. My answer is my favorite book adaptation will be Stephen King's The Mist, because
and I agree with you about the order in which you watch something, because one of the books that like totally shaped my whole middle school experience was reading Stephen King's It, and being the same age as the kids in.
Yes, remember the rock throwing scene? Like, oh my God.
Yes. And watching the 90s miniseries, I remember being in high school when that came on, and I was a little bit disappointed because it wasn't, what it should have been. And then I watched the new remake, and while the child actors and the adult actors, they were great actors, I was so angry with what they did to Mike Hanlon's character, and to the point where I feel like it's racist. It's racist. There's no way around it. I believe
it really is. Like, they totally watered this character down. Like, I was just like,
there was no reason. You took away his parents and you gave him this abusive grandfather that didn't exist. You took away the fact that he went to a private Christian school, and that's why he met them later on. It's just,
and they took away. He was the reason. He was the catalyst.
Yes, he was
together. I felt the same way, like watching it. I was just above the cloud, getting all hot, all super mad. And so I'm not gonna watch.
When you read the book, many of the chapters are from his perspective, because he is basically the main character, is recounting most of what's happening.
Yeah, he is the main character.
Everything together. They also left out the fact that he was educated, and that's why he was the librarian in the town. I mean, and they gave a lot of his characteristics to not Bill. I'm trying to go through the names. Bill, Eddie.
That remake was infuriating. Yeah, that remake was so infuriating that
Now the opposite of that happened with Carrie. I saw the movie Carrie first, then I read the book, and I was able to enjoy the book even more. Mm-hmm. Because I saw the movie first, and had I read the book first, I don't think I would have enjoyed the movie as much as I did.
Yeah, I realized that like early on, that I cannot watch a movie where I've already read the book. I just can't.
But the best book to movie adaptation for in my opinion is Interview with a Vampire. That is
really?
The closest. Yes, if you read the book Interview with a Vampire, that is the closest I've ever seen anyone do a movie to book. And I think it's because Anne Rice made herself very, very, very available.
Yeah, very. The writer for oh my God, why can't I think? Oh my God, why can't I think?
Even when I heard the casting, I was not on board. When they said, "Oh, Tom Cruise is going to play Lestat," I was like, "No way."
He did. No way. He was a good Lestat. I agree that. Okay, Game of Thrones. So he was on set for that, and they still went somewhere else. Like,
yeah, I don't know what.
This is not what
happened. Was really good.
And I don't. Why, even though the character that they picked for Jon Snow, oh my God, hubba hubba. You don't look 15, dude. Like, what's going on? No. Like, these were young ass kids. The only
was 13.
Yeah. Very young. But we got spun out on our tangents there.
Yeah. That's okay. That's what Game of Thrones is something. There's never not a good time to bring up Game of Thrones. I'm sorry. The way
touche.
that ended is like an a person. It's an assault on my senses. What they did at the end of it. Hold on, I just had to rant just one more time.
Fair enough.
Whole season 8. Oh, Jon Snow's he's gonna do something. He's gonna save his job. All he did was follow Khaleesi around and go, "You are my queen. You are my queen." But he didn't do anything. Then you had his brother.
Like the closest thing to the book, I think, from Game of Thrones was the Red Wedding. Like when everyone was all I'm like, you guys didn't read these books? Like you didn't know it was coming up? Like, get over yourself. Go drink some water. Like, wash your face. Like, what's happening?
The missed opportunity for his brother who can see through the eyes of birds. I thought, oh, why don't they write it into it that he sees through the eyes of one of the dragons and then he's able to do. Why did you not do that? Why did you not have him be able to see through the eyes of a dragon? And it was right there.
Right there. Yeah, I didn't finish that series just because it just I can't.
Oh, they stopped caring. There was water bottles and Starbucks cups on the set that you could see in the final. When you're watching the TV show, you could see the bottles of water in the Starbucks cup, and I'm like, you didn't edit that out?
Wow.
They stopped caring.
I guess they did because the fans stopped watching. So they're like, okay, we got 10. Let's just throw something in there. Yeah. So, and I didn't even get that far. Like, I think I stopped watching Game of Thrones about where I stopped reading the books. It's right after the Red Wedding.
How do I segue back to the top? I'm the worst. I'm gonna, when I edit this, I'm gonna insert the Simpsons comic book guy. Worst ever. So going back to your top 10 1970s horror movies.
Okay, so number 10 is a 2-for-1, and it has to be a 2-for-1 because the first one, both of these are number 10, would be Willard, and then the second would be Ben.
Oh, yeah, I remember those.
I liked that, again, practical special effects, and it was interesting seeing the expression on Ben's face, especially at the end of Willard, and knowing what he was thinking. He was like, oh, no, you're not doing this to me. And then the whole movie was like, for those of you guys who haven't seen it, it's like Planet of the Apes, but if they were all rats. Like, I think that's how I would explain that. But that's my number 10 movie, just because of the storyline and the practical special effects. And I really, really, really liked Ben. Number 9 would be the Brotherhood of Satan. Again, I like religious horror and the occult, and this one is still kind of on the cusp of, like, because it's early 1970s, so the gore is kind of over the top, but like the set and the clothes and like I had a really good time with that. That was fun. That was 9. Number 8, go ahead.
Might like, if you like Brotherhood of Satan. Have you seen this? It's a recent film. I happened to catch it last night on Joe Bob Briggs did like a Valentine's Day special, and he played this movie called The Love Witch.
No, let me take it. Let me get my pen.
Yeah, it's a movie. It's very recent. I want to say it came out maybe 2017, 2018. But the director is a female director, and she made the movie as if she were making a movie of that era. Like everything looks late.
I'm so gonna look for that. Thank you for the breadcrumbs.
I mean, the cinematography, the colors that she uses, very vibrant. The makeup, the clothing, the storyline of her being this witch and the warlocks that she's interacting with. You would really love it.
I'm sold. I'm sold. I'm so gonna get that. Oh, that's exciting. Thank you so much for telling me that. Okay, so I'm number 8. I'm gonna, like, I wrote a list, so I'm gonna like check them off. Number 8 is the Trilogy of Terror, because I like monsters and dolls, creepy dolls. So the Trilogy of Terror.
Who are you telling? Look.
Oh. Oh my God, I'm in love with that. Like, really?
Yes. Oh,
Okay.
the Chucky doll talks. I'll take him one day. I'm gonna take him out of the package.
I don't
And
know if you allow cussing on your channel, but like when you panned over, have you seen that little girl who her mom was like, "Who did that to you?" And she's like, "Chucky
No, I
from
haven't seen it.
Ireland." I'm not gonna say it. I'm gonna just like once we get live, I'm gonna link that video down in the description box.
I want a replica of the
Little
African
tiny
Zombie
girl
doll.
from Ireland, and the way that she talked, and she was like Chucky, and she's like effing Chucky, and her mom's like, oh. So I'll definitely link that down below. It's one of my favorite. Like it was back when it was like for the Vine.
I want a replica of that African Zuni doll from Trilogy of Terror.
They're expensive. I saw one
know.
on eBay for $390, and it had the little knife and everything. I'm like,
Yeah, that, and I want the ventriloquist dummy from Black Devil Doll from Hell.
dude, you're gonna have to like save up for that.
Yeah.
Have you seen one?
No, I meant to figure out how to make one.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
I know how to sew clothes, but I can figure out how to make a doll, then I can make the clothes.
I mean,
for
if
me.
they can make those Bernie dolls like the next day after the inauguration, surely find someone to make that doll for you. Okay, so number 7 is the Empire of the Ants.
That's another creature feature.
It is another creature feature, and my scary a bug self, like that.
Yeah, movie, that's right. That's right. Yes,
sent me over the top because the ants were so big, and that, you know, speaking of special effects, so that was absolutely CG, but it was done in a way that was not annoying, right? And I'm sure back then, like that was all blue screen, that was all computerized afterwards, you know, when she's like, you know, but like you can see like the hairs on their arms and their what are those called, mandibles, like, and then like the way that they were like dying when they were set on fire was so good. I really liked the Empire. I mean, it was really a hard watch for me because I am entopophobic, but like it was just so good. It's like the military experiments that made the ants get that big. That's another thing that I should have. So I'm gonna go back and change, even though I like the Korean horror movies because it's super emotional. My third favorite subgenre of horror is science fiction when the military is doing shit that they shouldn't. And I believe that science fiction and horror are fraternal twins.
yes,
science fiction would be super terrifying. So that's my answer to that. Was thinking about the Empire of the Ants. Number 7 is almost environmental again, with people doing things that they shouldn't be doing, is The Brood. Remember all the kids with the black nails because they drove through the fog coming home from school?
Oh, that's the children.
The Brood.
No, that was the children.
Yeah. Oh my God, that was the children.
Yeah, The Brood is with the woman that I just remember.
All those babies were so like, yeah.
But those kind of go together. Both...
Yeah, I thank you for reminding me. It is the children. It's not The Brood. Okay. Why was I thinking The Brood? The Brood was good, but I didn't. It's not on my list. So scratch off The Brood and add the children.
But that also might have been 1980. But we make our own rules. So we're just gonna say if it was probably filmed.
Check to see if it is 80s. I don't think it was.
Children.
Hold on, you guys.
1980.
It was?
Yeah.
Shit. Okay, so then
but it was filmed in probably 79. So I say we include it.
When it was The Brood was 1979?
No, the children. I said the children was 1980, but it was probably filmed in 1979.
I like it. We're gonna keep it on a technicality.
Yeah, we're gonna let it slide on a technicality.
Speaking of children, what number am I on? I'm on number 5. Speaking of children, who could kill a child? Because though, you know, it's something really unsettling, like what you were talking about when you chose the Omen in segment, our first series. There's something truly unsettling watching children be evil because, you know, we're taught to think that they're innocent, like these innocent beings, but like those kids, and who can kill a child were
Mhm.
methodical and relentless, and the way that they were planning things and the traps that they were setting, and the old man who was trying to warn them, like it just like
Even
that
going
was
back to your previous choice, the children, a lot of those victims in the movie were victims because they just couldn't believe that the children
yep,
would be dangerous. Even
yep,
when they were told
yep,
it's because of the children, their minds just couldn't fathom the children being the
yep.
culprits.
What was the other one? Like the Village of the Down. Wait, when was
Mhm.
that? That's 80s, I'm sure. But like again, the Village of the Down, like, and then like, and I didn't, that movie was really strange to me because like all of these kids look exactly alike. Why wasn't that a red flag? But that's neither here or there. I think the next thing that unsettles people about children being like dangerous are dogs. And so my next movie on this list is Double Dog, where you know
I
I
thought you were
think
going to say Cujo.
no, Double Dog, because
Oh wait, Cujo was 80s, wasn't it?
yeah,
Huh?
it was. So like the Double Dog, like I think what makes people afraid of dogs is that you can see them thinking. Like any
Mhm.
animal that has been around as long as a dog has, with problem solving skills, and now it's been like enhanced with demonic power.
Mhm.
That's terrifying. I mean, dogs alone, just like regular dogs, can be pretty scary, especially if they're not your dogs, or if they're stray dogs, if they're hurt, because when they get to that point, you can see the wolf behind their eyes. They're not that far away from their wild counterparts. And so um, it was just a really terrifying movie, um, just to like that household. And then in the end, right, where the little girl's asking the dad, she's like, well, there were 9 other dogs in that litter. And I like that type of ending because it allows you to be like, oh wow, so where are those dogs? And are those families going to be as fortunate as this family? So um yeah, that's my number 4. And speaking of dogs, number 3 is going to be the pack. Now, what I like a lot about some of the 70s horror movies is the over dramatically acting, right? And
Mhm.
so that's expected in a 70s movie. But the hero dog in this movie also is like acting over the top. So there's a scene where he goes up this trail and he gets bit by a rabbit, right? A rabbit of all things, because he put his nose in the hole and he got bit on the nose by a rabbit or a raccoon. No, it wasn't the nose. It was his his forearm. And so it was either a rabbit or a raccoon. And so when he's coming back down the hill, the dog is all limping and whining. And I'm like, really? Even the dog acts like this? Like the acting in 1970s horror movies, it's just like I super, super love it. So yeah. And it tells a story, the pack. So for those of you guys who don't know, some of the younger audiences, the devil dog is about a breed, um, a litter of German shepherds that were all possessed by the devil. The pact is
I just
about
love the concept of that.
yeah, the pact is about regular family dogs that people left in the woods or didn't want to take care of anymore, and so and that's another thing that makes this movie so wholly unsettling, is because these dogs look like they were pets. And so you have a golden retriever like ripping somebody's jugular out, and you have the poodle, and you have, there is a German shepherd, but like these are the dogs that we see at home. And so they reverted back into because I think someone said, you know uh, wild or domestic dogs who are left in the wild to become a pack, they revert back to the
Mhm.
way wolves act. And so to see this behavior from like a golden retriever acting like a wolf, and like and the camera zooming in on their eyes where they're thinking and their expression. Dogs are very expression low animals. It's just that's what makes that movie
I
extremely
definitely will.
terrifying. It's
I
just
want to
because,
check that out because
yeah,
it sounds like there's probably an underlying social commentary in that movie too.
right. Because back then people were abandoning their dogs. They're like, oh, they can hunt. They're, they'll just, but that's not what happens. If the dogs don't form a pack, they starve out there, right? And so it's really good. And so that's the pact in 1977. But in the year, and it's out of Germany, I think, I could be wrong, but it's called White God. And it is, I think,
Oh, you mean White Dog?
White God.
Oh,
Yeah, it's White Dog. Is that movie was super good, was from the 1970s, but White God would be, because I watched both the pack and White God, I think they might have reimagined the pack, because these dogs are, again, dogs that had homes. And this little girl who her father left the dog out, because he, for whatever reason. And so the whole movie is this girl looking for her dog, and this dog becoming a part of a pack, and the packs, and they're running from the dog catchers. And it shows, even, they don't do that much as the pack. In the pack, in the 1970s movie, these dogs are pissed off by the point where that movie starts. They're like, how dare you leave us, right? We're your best friends and you're going to leave us out in the cold. Well, guess what? And so that's like, it's traumatizing. And it's sad because, like, they're dogs. But with the White God, we get to see the turmoil of the little girl not having her dog with her. And then it's told from the dog's perspectives. And they do turn on the humans because they've been discarded and mistreated. And one of the dogs leads a revolution out of the dog pound, because that pound that they're all going to is a kill shelter. So there's a scene where her dog is the one who does the revolution. Like, they revolt and they all get out of the kill shelter. It's a horrible movie because, at first the dog thinks that he got another owner, but then he was forced to fight in a dog ring. Like, it's incredible. That's White God, which I think is the international remake of an American horror film. Okay, so number 2, speaking of children, Alice, Sweet Alice. That movie destroyed me. That movie absolutely destroyed me, because it seemed like she was doing everything that she was doing was because she wanted love, she wanted attention, and she wanted to take communion. Like, can you imagine? And I think Alice was 12 or 13 in this movie, wanting to be that close to God and not being allowed to. So then you just do the most evilest acts that you can think of. Like, none of that would have happened if they had I'm going to stop just in case you hadn't.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop. And then my number one favorite movie of all time is The Exorcist. No surprise there. Oh, I have can I do like a finalist?
Yeah.
Okay. I want to do The Wicker Man.
Or like an honorable mention?
An honorable mention.
Yeah, honorable mention.
Yeah, the honorable mention is going to be The Wicker Man. Not the one with not
the bees, not the bees.
not the one with Nicolas Cage, the original. Yes. It was super incredible. And speaking of remakes, he's also the one who did The Wicker Tree, which is not in the 1970s. But again, if you haven't seen it, it's just the way that movie unfolds. And again, it's religious horror. The Wicker Tree, if you guys see it, they use these missionaries, because we have 2 young missionaries who are going abroad to spread the word of Christ, and things don't go according to plan. So we'll just leave it at that. So those are mine, even though Halloween and Jaws and Friday the 13th are on that list. It's on everybody's list. So even though I didn't mention them, I still love those movies. But that's my top 10 plus a 2-for-1 and my honorable mentions.
That was a great list.
Thank you.
I'm sure the people watching this will add it. A lot of my older subscribers will probably have great memories still of when they saw those movies, where they were at. I love to hear that when they say, oh, I saw this movie in the movie theater in 1970 something and there was a line around the block. And I like hearing those type of stories because I can live vicariously through that. I would like you to tell everybody where they can find you.
Okay, so my YouTube channel is Wordsmith Crystal Connor, and I also do movie reviews. My movie reviews are a little bit different than what you guys are used to seeing here. I do what's called live action reviews. And so what that is you guys watch me watch a horror movie as I yell at them not to go into the damn basement. Turn on the light. Why are you outside? Like the whole 9 yards. I think watching horror movie is a participation sport. So yep, you get to see me screaming at the characters. And then at the end, I give my commentary of what I thought, you know, what I didn't like, high points, low points, and where I watched it. So that's live action reviews by Crystal Connor. And I'm also a staff writer for horroraddicts.net, which features my live action reviews. They go on there first and they go onto my YouTube channel. But I'm about to revamp my whole entire YouTube channel. I'm going to have some more content and some archives, DVD Picks of the Week archives that I'll be doing for you guys. So yeah, like what she was saying in our last segment, she didn't want to be this way, but click like, share, and subscribe.
No, you have to do it. You have to do it like the annoying YouTuber. Smash that like button.
Smash that like button. Before we go any further, click the bell so that you can get the notifications. Like, I don't see
the algorithm.
the algorithms. If you want to check out any of my books, I have a what is that? Jeez. I'm on Facebook, so / notes from the author will be my Facebook page. I'm on IG, which is basically the day in the life of a starving artist. And so it's just tips and tricks on how I survive as a working author. A lot of people are like, how can you do this as an author? And then it just shows like my works in progress, tons of selfies with me and my dog, budget meals, like the whole 9 yards. And Twitter, I'm on Twitter, and it's at from the author.
We'll put everything in the description box, so you'll be able to click around.
Thank you. I'm so bad at that. I am this year. I'm gonna try and figure out how to streamline my social media. I probably won't have as much as everybody else because I'm mostly on here on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Instagram. So I think I'm just gonna be focusing on those three. I have a Twitter account, but I don't tweet anything, even though a lot of people tweet me. And so like I just need to like downgrade so that I can bring better content, because like I'm just all over the board right now.
We should live tweet a movie one time.
Oh my God, we're definitely doing that. We're definitely doing that. And speaking of movies, you guys, there's a part 3 here. What we're going to be doing is we are going to be talking about we're going to be reviewing a movie called Kindred. So that's going to be our next part 3 and our part 3-part mini series of When East Meets West, because Lady Shasha is in Florida and I'm in Seattle, and she came up with that. So that's kind of
very, very good. So I'm going to, you know what? I'll save my usual sign off for when we do the movie review, because I have a sign off, and when we do a movie review, I'll tell you guys what inspired that sign off in the part 3.
I love it. I can't wait for that. So be sure to follow us. You've come with us this far. You might as well just come and check out our joint review. Are we going to include spoilers?
I say, well, the movie's been out for long enough. I think a spoiler review when we do it half and half, like do the first half of it, we'll do a regular review, and then we'll spoiler alert, and then get more in depth in our analysis.
I love that. So that's going to be cool. You guys, thank you so much for inviting me into your time, and you, Shasha, for allowing me to come on your channel. This was so fun.
Thank you so much for stopping by.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks so much. So, okay, guys, I think we're going to sign off.
Bye. Stay tuned for part 3.